SJ. Welcome to Mvskoke Radio, your weekly source for tribal and community news, interesting guests and discussions, plus a local events calendar. SJ, Stone Go, Gary Fife, Jaho Jifkados, Mvskoke Radio, Mabo Hedget Oedgikis. First of all, let me thank Stan there for keeping us on schedule today. We have a couple of things to share with you on our program. First of all, a couple of weeks ago, that's almost three, marked the 140th anniversary of the Battle of the Little Bighorn, where the Allied forces of Lakota, Cheyenne, and Arapaho turned back and defeated U.S. cavalry at the Little Bighorn, or the Greasy Grass as they call it. Probably a turning point in history, one of the last major battles where Indian warriors were victorious over federal troops, something that I think all Native people have sort of adopted as kind of a we won kind of thinking. But the Philbrook Museum down in Tulsa is marking the occasion with an exhibit about that, and we'll have that discussion with Christina Burke in the first segment. In our second part, we have a bunch of wonderful young people getting ready to march from Okmulgee to the state capitol on the occasion of creating awareness about teen dating violence. We'll be speaking with Jay Fife and Rachel Sourjohn about that project in our second half. But first of all, let's listen to our discussion. I went to Philbrook's Downtown Museum and spoke with Christina Burke, who is a curator of the Western, North American, and American Indian Arts section. It's amazing how much Native American material the Philbrook has. We usually hear of the other museum, the Gilcrease, which is a wonderful place, but it is amazing to see how much the Philbrook Museum has. So, in commemoration of the 104th anniversary, they presented this rare first-person depiction. It's a wonderful muslin piece with painting of the battle done by Stephen Standing Bear, who is a Minneconjou Lakota, and was actually one of the participants in that battle. He was about 16 years old. The painted muslin featured in the exhibit is an eyewitness account as remembered and recorded by Standing Bear. So this is myself and Christina Burke talking about their exhibition, First Person.
The exhibition is called First Person, Remembering Little Bighorn, and it features a painted muslin of the Battle of the Little Bighorn, which was done by a Lakota man named Stephen Standing Bear, who fought in the battle.
Now, why is it here in Tulsa? I understand, of course, we've seen the 140th anniversary was just in the tail end of June there. Is that a connection?
It's a connection to why it's currently on exhibit. Actually, Philbrook has owned this painted muslin since 1981. So we've had it in the collection for a while, and it was on exhibit at some point in the 1980s. I'm not sure exactly the date, but it hadn't been up for a while. And with that 140th anniversary of the battle, I thought it was a great opportunity to highlight this piece of Native art from a Native perspective.
Now, what was the influence that provoked you, shall we say, into wanting to put this up, and how many pieces are in it, and what does it consist of?
Well, the exhibition focuses on this painted muslin, which is really more mural-sized. It's 3 feet by 15 feet long, so it's a very large piece of art. There are a couple of pieces of supplemental materials. We have some digital photographs of additional Lakota drawings by another artist named Amos Badheart Bull, as well as some books of Standing Bear and his drawings, and Badheart Bull and his drawings, too.
So all in all, how many pieces are in the exhibit?
Well, there's one piece of original art, there are 7 digital photographs, and there are 3 books.
All right, now we're standing in your, I presume, the main exhibit hall for this particular exhibition, and I'm seeing this muslin piece here. Maybe you can describe what we've got here. It reminds me of the ledger book art that also focused on this battle. So why don't you describe what we're seeing here?
Well, you're right. This kind of painting or drawing, pictography, is often called ledger art because of many well-known drawings on paper by Plains Indians, the same kind of style of drawing, recording important historical events in the lives of Native communities and individuals. But rather than being on paper, this is on a piece of muslin, as I said, 3 by 15 feet long, so it really is an epic scene of the entire Battle of the Little Bighorn from Standing Bear's perspective. So we see, it's figurative drawing, so we see figures of humans and animals, horses that is, but we also see the landscape of the battlefield. So on the bottom of the muslin, we see Little Bighorn Creek itself. And in the bottom right corner, we actually see the native encampment of Lakota and Cheyenne allies who were camping out that summer preparing for communal buffalo hunt and also the Sundance that Chief Sitting Bull presided over.
Now, as we look at the piece, we're seeing what appears to be cavalry horses being run off, and then in the center we have the battle itself. It looks like Last Stand Hill, and then on the right side we have warriors making an attack with some cavalrymen running off. Is that pretty much what we have?
That's an overall view, yes. And because this piece is so big and so complicated, there's so many different skirmishes happening, what we decided to do is to take 10 details and focus on those and create a text rail just below the muslin and give people points of entries and specific details to focus on. Well, in the left-hand corner, we have a bunch of riderless horses, and we can tell that they're cavalry horses because they all have saddles. And they're riderless, and that sort of coincides with a number of interviews that Standing Bear did about his experience in the battle. And he recalls the time when the Lakota and Cheyenne allies knocked off a bunch of cavalrymen from their horses. So on the left side of the muslin, we see those horses running away, and we see some native warrior chasing to capture them because, of course, horribly valuable for hunting, for warfare, for moving camp, and so those were valuable resources to be taken as trophies from the battle.
Almost a currency.
Absolutely. Well, one of the other things about this painted muslin and the photographs that you see here supplementing the material is the details of the warrior society regalia that these Native men are wearing. And if you look at the cavalrymen, they all look the same. They all have the same uniform. They're not distinguished as individuals. They're all just enemies. But if you look at the native warriors, they're all distinguished by individual headdresses, by shield designs, and by warrior society regalia. So we see members of the Chontetinza or Braveheart Society, for instance. In the middle of the muslin here, we see a Braveheart Society member who's got a staff with alternating light and dark feathers, and he's counting coup or striking one of those cavalrymen, one of the enemies.
Now, the practice of counting coup was to almost insult an enemy by saying, I can touch you and still get away. I could have killed you, but I chose not to, just slap you with this stick.
Absolutely. For the Plains warriors, it was one of the bravest deeds one could do in battle. And so those warrior society members had different kinds of weapons and regalia with which they would count coup on the enemy. And yes, it was a sign of utter disrespect to the enemy to do that in battle and then get away unscathed.
Now, how about the one here in the center at the top? It looks like, as I alluded to earlier, Last Stand Hill.
I believe it is, and we see the cavalrymen here are off their horses. So I'm assuming it's their horses who've been run off on the left side of the muslin. And here they are trying to stand their ground on Last Stand Hill. So they've lost their horses, and it seems to be really chaotic. As you look around, there's gunshots everywhere, which Standing Bear has illustrated as sort of clouds of dust or gun smoke. And it was just so chaotic. In one of his interviews, he says there were so many guns going off that you couldn't hear anything. And he really, I think his artwork is evocative of that experience for him as a 16-year-old boy fighting in the battle, and that there was just so much going on. You didn't know who you were shooting at. Was it the enemy? Was it your fellow tribesmen? It was just total chaos on all sides.
Now, can you pick out Custer? Is he depicted specifically anywhere here?
I can't pick out Custer because he's not depicted here. As I said earlier, all of the cavalrymen, all of the soldiers look exactly the same. And that's because from a Lakota point of view, they were all enemies. It didn't matter which one was long yellow hair, Pehihonska, which was the Lakota name for Custer. They were all enemies, and they all had to be taken care of.
Sort of like the stormtroopers in Star Wars.
Exactly. They're all uniform, they all look the same, and they're all enemies.
On the flip side, since this does tell a story from the warrior's point of view, are there specific warriors that you could point out? Would there be a crazy horse in here or some of the others?
There probably are, but I can't identify individuals, but I have been able to identify some members of these warrior societies. For instance, the Chontetinza, the Braveheart Society that I mentioned before, Miwatani Society, Omaha Society. And so that's what the photographs on the sides of the exhibition explain. Who are those people, and what are their particular headdresses and regalia and weapons of that warrior society?
Now, it looks, from what I see, you've got an incredible amount of eagle feathers, which denotes bravery. Many double-tail war bonnets, which would be an exceptional warrior. And then the others are wearing war bonnets of various size and length. And so were you able to discern whether or not that was done on purpose?
Absolutely, it was done on purpose, and again, to identify those warriors both by their membership in warrior societies, but also as individuals. And although I can't translate and interpret, I'm sure some traditional Lakota people could.
Now, what's the history? How did this come about? Was there a pressing need on the Natives' side to tell this story, and was this the only medium available? Do you know anything about that?
Well, there certainly was an interest both on the Native side and the non-Native side to tell this story. From books, novels, movies, TV shows, the Custer Battle is something that is in every history book, but also in popular culture as well. And even shortly after the battle, there was an interest in the Native perspective on it. So there were lots of interviews done with Native participants in the battle, and lots of artist warriors like Standing Bear who recorded their experiences in this traditional pictograph form.
You mentioned movies there, and I want to explore that a little further. And this is the warrior side of the story. Now, recently on one of the cable channels, there was the old Earl Flynn movie. They died with their boots on. And heroic Custer standing there facing all this oncoming horde of Indians with an empty gun and a saber. How does Hollywood's interpretation compared with what you see here and what you've been working with? Let me ask you for your opinion on that.
Well, I can give you an opinion, but I'm not a military historian. So, but one of the things that strikes me, and we were just talking about the detail of these soldiers who were on foot at the top of the muslin, and looking at Standing Bear's interviews about his experience in the battle, and thinking about how chaotic it was. The soldiers had no idea how big this encampment of Lakota and Cheyenne was. I should say Lakota, Cheyenne, and Arapaho. They had no idea how many warriors there were. And from a Native perspective, I think, these people were defending their homeland and their traditional way of life. They had just come out of ceremony for the Sundance that Sitting Bull had presided over, and they were defending their way of life, and so they were literally going to fight to the death, and it was absolute chaos. And we see some of that depicted in the muslin, but we also see it written in these accounts about the gunshots going everywhere, and that it was just deafening. Standing Bear couldn't hear anything because there were so many guns going off on both sides.
Now, you were making a point there about soldiers versus a community, and that's the way I've always understood it. That, these were people who were defending their homes and their families and children, their way of life, versus a standing professional army. Now, is that correct?
That's my interpretation of it, yes. And I think it's important in this particular piece by Standing Bear that he included that encampment. And includes the river and the landscape, and this is where Lakota and Cheyenne and Arapaho people would come together in the summertime to have these communal buffalo hunts. They would work cooperatively to hunt buffalo, but also come together for ceremony, for Sundance, and a reunion of type, and to visit with relatives who might live far away during the rest of the year. But this was a time of celebration, of reunion, and of spiritual renewal through the Sundance.
I mentioned earlier this group of cavalrymen who are, I guess the best way to describe it, looks like they're running away. Is that accurate? Is that true? Or are they just being cut off and run away? What's going on there?
Well, they certainly do look like they're running away. All the other soldiers seem to be engaged in battle, or perhaps are wounded, knocked off their horse at the bottom of the deep ravine, a trench that was there at the battlefield, which we see in the middle of the muslin. Again, I'm not a military historian, and so I can't really speak to the accuracy of it in terms of historical documents, but from a Native perspective, looking at first-person accounts like this in pictographs, but also interviews that were done with Native warriors. Absolutely. Again, it was chaos, and some of the soldiers did run away.
Oh, absolutely. I've been to that battlefield, and you can see these white granite markers off way by themselves, a couple 100 yards away. And he said there's no reason except one for that to be there. Somebody was trying to save their life and get away. Now, how did this muslin come about in terms of, I guess, acquisition? What's its trail? What's its history here?
It's kind of an interesting history. So Philbrook has a huge and diverse collection of Native art with a particular strength in Native paintings. And when this muslin came to the attention of the curator at the time, again, it was 1981, and we didn't have a lot of examples of this sort of traditional Plains pictography or ledger drawings, whether it was on paper, on cloth, on hide. Again, this is a very large piece, 3 by 15 feet. They hadn't identified the maker at the time, but it was clearly of an battle, and they came to understand it was Battle of the Little Bighorn. So this was a critical piece to add to the collection. And as I recall, there was a single donor who thought it was important for Philbrook to have. So Miss John Zink, who raised the funds and donated those so that Philbrook could purchase this for our collection of Native art.
Now, this is part of your permanent collection?
It is. Since 1981, it's been part of the permanent collection. But the anniversary, the 140th anniversary, gave us a perfect reason to have it up and, again, be able to depict Native history from Native perspectives, not that pop culture perspective.
No yellow hair standing bravely against the hordes there.
We don't see him anywhere on the muslin.
Okay, now, as we're standing here admiring this, we see several other black and white, I don't know, I'm not much of an art person myself. What are these called, and what form, I guess, maybe is this particular artwork?
These supplemental photographs are photos of ledger drawings. So the same kind of pictographs that we see painted on the muslin, we see here drawn on paper. And this is another Lakota artist. His name was Amos Badhart Bull. He was about 10 years younger than Standing Bear. And so he was too young to fight in the battle, but his father and uncle certainly did. And so he drew about their memories of their experiences. But these particular drawings are actually details of Lakota warrior societies. It's Amos Badhart Bull explaining the regalia of these individual warrior societies, not just in pictographs, not just in drawings, but also using the Lakota language to explain what they were and whose society they belonged to.
Okay, now is that the same for these other four on the other side?
It is the same, and actually the original drawings by Badhart Bull no longer exist. They've been destroyed. But there were glass plate negatives taken of the drawings in the 1920s that had thought to be disappeared, but recently reappeared and were donated to the Smithsonian. So actually for this exhibition, we worked with the Smithsonian to get digital copies of these drawings to have them in our exhibition, and this is the first time these drawings have ever been exhibited.
Are they from the National Museum of the American Indian?
Actually, they're from the National Anthropological Archives at the Museum of Natural History, which is just across the way from National Museum of the American Indian.
Okay, now there are a couple of books laid out here. What do we have here? Pages are open to this more battle scene. Well, no, it isn't. It looks like a parlay or something like that.
So there are 3 books as part of the exhibition. These are resources from our Adkins Study Center here at Philbrook downtown. The book we're looking at now is a publication of drawings by Amos Badhart Bull. It was published by University of Nebraska Press in 1967. And when these glass plate negatives were recently rediscovered and given to the Smithsonian, the University of Nebraska said, this is a great opportunity for us to republish the book using these recently found glass plate negatives. So next year, they're going to publish a new version of Oglala Pictographic History, the drawings of Amos Badhart Bull, using these glass plate negatives from the Smithsonian. So this was a chance for Philbrook to look at this older publication and some of the drawings and Lakota words of Amos Badhart Bull in conjunction with these new versions of the drawings that have been digitized and brought into the 21st century.
Since the primary purpose, I presume, is educational, let me ask you a couple of things here. I understand you spent some time there as you tell me about it.
I've spent some time, a lot of time on the Northern Plains in general, but most of my time was on the Pine Ridge Reservation. When I was in graduate school studying anthropology, I did my field work at Red Cloud Indian School, which has a wonderful museum right there in Pine Ridge.
Since this event was a pivotal happening in the history of the Lakota peoples, Cheyenne and Arapaho, what did you hear? What did you pick up from the people who lived there about this particular battle?
The Battle of the Little Bighorn on June 25th, 1876 was absolutely a pivotal history, a pivotal moment in Indian-white relations and in American Indian history. It was a major victory for Native people, but one of the last major victories of the Plains Wars. And so people talk about that with great pride and reverence for their relatives who fought in that battle, but they also know that the government backlash against it was also severe and was among the things that led to the massacre at Wounded Knee, December 29th, 1890, on Pine Ridge. And so it's an important element of history, not just in and of itself, but as part of an ongoing cross-cultural interaction that was often tragic and dramatic and still affects people's lives today.
In what way did it affect yours? Did it kind of open your eyes to seeing that there is another side to this, or affirm what you'd already believed? How did it affect you?
It affected me quite deeply, particularly when I was on Pine Ridge and traveling around the Northern Plains, seeing this landscape for the first time. I'm originally from back east, from around Washington, D.C., and so traveling this landscape, hearing these stories from Native people, seeing this artwork, which again is first-person account, an eyewitness account, not second or third hand, but from someone who was there and participated, makes it more real. And for me, makes these historical figures of the past more human.
What do you hear from the humans who come in to see this? I mean, have you been able to pick up some feedback from visitors?
We've been getting wonderful feedback from visitors. You know, I think this gallery gives us a chance to focus on a small number of objects, and even though there's really just one piece of original art in this exhibition, it's a large one, it's detailed, it's complicated, there's a great story there, and the action I'm hearing is that people say, I had no idea. I had no idea that this kind of artwork existed, that these pictographs, ledger drawings, drawings on hide and cloth are first-person accounts. They're Native history from Native perspectives. I had no idea Philbrook had this. And so it's a great opportunity, again, for us to provide a Native perspective on a piece of American history.
What about the flip side of that coin? Have there been any negative accounts or folks coming in with expectations of gorgeously executed Indian art or something like that? Are they surprised to find that it is this pictograph style? I mean, what do you hear on that side of the coin?
I haven't heard any negativity personally, and my opinion is that this is gorgeously executed Native American art, and it's just one small portion of Philbrook's large and diverse collection. And the other thing that I wanted to mention is that we actually have an online page where visitors can explore the details of this muslin online. I mean, we encourage them, if they can, come down to see it in person, because there's nothing like seeing original artwork in person. But if you can't, we've got this wonderful online opportunity web page where you can get the details, as you see on the rail text here in the gallery, but you can explore this muslin in detail online as well.
Let me explore that just a little bit more. Have any schools sent classes, little children or something, of any age to come in and take a look at this?
Well, school is out for the summer, but this exhibition is up through the end of the year. And so I certainly hope that we can work with the local schools to invite children, students of all ages, including college and postgraduate, to come in to explore this unique piece of art.
I guess the final question in asking you to sum up everything you see here that is presented, that you've worked on. What would you tell a person who hadn't seen it, had no idea of this sort of thing even existing? How would you describe it, or what would you tell them?
I would tell them that this is a great opportunity to explore this unique traditional Native art form, focused on an event that we all think we know about, Custer's Last Stand. And so this exhibition is a chance for them to come to see a different perspective on the battle from someone who was there. Not second or third hand, this is first person.
The defeat of Custer and the 7th Cavalry struck a decisive blow, and it was unexpected. Happened to the U.S. Army, and this was just 2 weeks before America celebrated its centennial as a country. We encourage you to get down to the Philbrook Downtown Museum. It's just across from the Guthrie Green down in Tulsa. Okay, we're going to take a pause here, and we'll be back and start our chat with the Mvskoke Youth Council and their planned event, March from Mogi to Oklahoma City. So stay with us here on Mvskoke Radio on 1240 The Brew.
I started doing it when I was 11. I wanted to be just like my big brother. And some of my friends were already doing it. We got hooked fast. I just can't get enough. I'm Jacob, and I'm addicted to playing the drums.
There's lots of stuff that makes it cool to be Native. Doing meth isn't one of them. Find something better to do. Check out ncai.org. A message from the Partnership for a Drug-Free America and the National Congress of American Indians.
Nearly 22 million women and girls and nearly 1.6 million men and boys have been raped in their lifetime, probably by someone they know. April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month. If you or someone you know has been sexually assaulted, confidential support is only a phone call away. Contact the Mvskoke Nation Family Violence Prevention Program at 918-732-7869 and ask to speak to an advocate. Services are free and open to the general public.
Welcome back to Mvskoke Radio here on 1240 The Brew. Coming in to help me with this interview chores, our good buddy Darren DeLon, who's
running late.
running late. Yeah, so I told him he could take some time there, but he sure did, didn't he?
Yeah.
Okay. Also, though, in the studio we have Jay Fife and Rachel Sourjohn of the Mvskoke Nation Youth Council. They've got a wonderful project coming up. And a wonderfully hot project, I would say, about youth showing their concern over the issue of teen dating violence here in Indian country and particularly our nation. First of all, welcome you two. We appreciate you making time to come down today.
Glad to be here.
Thank you for having us.
Okay, now, first of all, for folks who aren't familiar with your group, let's have a little kind of a capsule view of the Mvskoke Nation Youth Council.
Well, I am Jay Fife, I'm the second speaker of the Mvskoke Nation Youth Council, and currently the Youth Council members we have about 40 members, and our group consists of Mvskoke youth ages 12 to 24, and we meet on the second Saturday of each month, except for this month. Our meeting is this Saturday, so I encourage everybody to come out. Basically what we do is the purpose of our youth council is to empower Mvskoke youth. We like to also enhance our voice, but the most important one is to sustain the Mvskoke way of life for all generations. So that's kind of a rundown of what we do at the Mvskoke Nation Youth Council.
Rachel, how is the membership broken down? Is it mostly young men, mostly young women? How does that shake out?
Originally it started out a pretty good variety, whenever we were having our advisory meetings, and trying to really nail down their constitution and everything for the youth council. There was a good variety, but, now it's kind of a lot more towards, I'd say around like 16 to 18, maybe 13 to 18. There's a pretty good range around there, and so we would like to see some more older youth, maybe some mentoring opportunities, so that some of our younger youth that are involved in the youth council can really learn from them as well.
Well, if they get much older than what you just said, they won't be youth anymore. They'll be kind of like me, old, if that's the word. Now, first of all, when I first heard of your group, I was really fascinated and actually very proud of you for organizing the group and presenting, if I can get it out, presenting some guidance and some goals for young people who these days may not have that sort of thing out there available to them or it's part of their life. Now, as one of your goals then to improve their way of life and particularly as a Mvskoke person, I mean, do you take programs or steps in those directions?
Yes, we tackle different topics. So, like, for example, the Mvskoke March, we are tackling teen dating violence. But not only that, we have some events concerning teen pregnancy. That's also an issue not only within the nation, but Mvskoke County in the state of Oklahoma, we rank number 2 of teen pregnancy rates. And so that's an outstanding number, and we just want to bring that number down. So it goes a lot. We tackle language, cultural identity, like I said, teen dating violence, and we just want to better the community. So we do anything that'll help the community and the nation.
Rachel, let me ask you about your focus here, teen dating violence in Indian country, and particularly here among our own people. If you were going to assess it and say how big is it or how intense is it, give a description of the topic. How would you put it?
Well, I don't have any specific numbers, Gary, but
that's fine.
As far as teen dating violence, I mean, it's something that we don't really talk about, and it's something that we don't really want to think about. We don't want to think about our young people being violent towards each other, or even having those feelings of being violent towards someone else. But it is something that we need to think about and to be reacting to, and also to make sure that we're preventing those things. And so it's not something that I've seen a whole lot, but I know that it does exist. We have events every year through the Family Prevention. They have a Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month, and so it is something that we like to think about to keep preventing, to make sure that we're hosting all of these awareness events throughout the year.
Well, still on that same subject, though, I guess I'm just trying to put some faces on the issue. And wondering whether either one of you had encountered a situation like that, or know of people who had been either the victim or the perpetrator of this violence. I know as a young person in my life, it wasn't much of a discussion. I mean, we knew it happened. They said, well, it's none of my business. That's him and his girlfriend, or, she should have said no, or stuff like all these weird misconceptions we have. And it was, a big thing for some guy to be with a lot of women. Like, hey, look at my scorecard. I've got all of this. Now, are we still dealing with that kind of situation these days?
Well, for me, I know some friends that have been in violent relationships, and, it's concerning, but if you look around, some of our teens who are so-called dating, they are in violent relationships. They just don't realize it. And it's like we want to create that environment to let them know that, hey, you are being abused. You just don't know it because it's kind of a social norm. Mm-hmm. And so we want to try to just bring awareness on that subject. And it happens. I mean, it's happening right now as we're having this conversation, whether it be 5 miles away or 10 miles away. It's happening right now in Mvskoke County and within the nation.
With you bringing all these awareness up for our youth, has there been anybody that has stepped up and said, hey, I've been going through all this. Is there any way you can help me, or can you point me in the right direction?
Not yet, but that's what our goal is to help those that have either been, the victim, or, just we want to help people realize that this is happening, and just give them education that, like, if you are being, someone's calling you stupid or ugly, when you're in a relationship with them, that's not healthy, and that's not respecting, your dating partner. Mm-hmm.
Now, Rachel, you look like you had a response to that last question.
I did. He was talking about creating awareness for what constitutes a violent relationship. I think that's kind of the biggest part, especially you see on Facebook today, there's a lot of memes or pictures that go around, and they talk about creeping on your man's phone or things like that. And things like that, those are warning signs of a violent relationship being controlled by someone. Like Jay said, they're calling you names, or they're trying to keep you from your friends. There are little things like that, just guilt tripping, a lot of that, those are indicators of a violent relationship. And so creating this for awareness for our teens is really important because they don't know that these are violent indicators. They don't know that that's something that they need to get taken care of. And a lot of our awareness, even though we do want to create a safe space for them to come to us, if that's who they feel the most comfortable with, we do try to encourage them to go to family violence prevention because they really have the tools and the necessary counseling to get them the services that they need.
And for me, this Mvskoke March kind of goes on a personal level. I don't know if y'all are aware of the Royland Rides the Horse. She was a victim of domestic violence in Lame Deer, Montana. I'm part Crow, and Royland Rides the Horse is actually my cousin. What had happened was in early April, she was in a violent relationship, and she had been beaten by her boyfriend. And his intent was to kill her, and he set her on fire. And she burned for, the police think, at least 2 hours, because he had beat her unconscious. She did gain consciousness, and she walked to a highway. And an eyewitness said that when he found her, you could still see the smoke. And she survived, which is something to be proud of. But it wasn't until recently that we lost her. Mm-hmm. Just a couple weeks ago, Royland Rides the Horse, she did pass away from her injuries, domestic violence, and for me, it's kind of, goes on a personal level because she was my cousin, she was my blood. And, she was in a violent relationship and she couldn't escape that. And we lost a life. And, it's something that's taken over Indian country. And we just want to bring those numbers down. And for me, this is kind of my way of honoring Roy Lynn, saying, we want to remember you. So.
Let me ask you a question. I think we probably heard on talk shows or things like that. And, someone's involved, and it could be a young man or a young woman involved in this relationship, and they won't leave. And you ask them why, and they say, well, because I love him or love her, and are blind to everything else. Did you, do either of you ever see that or have some thoughts about how to deal with it?
I fortunately I haven't had to interact too much with that type of a relationship, but as far as just dealing with that type of relationship, I think that's why we want them to go to family violence prevention, just to get that counseling, because even though I know that that's a very common excuse, is that I'm in love with him, he says he's going to change, or she says she's going to change, she's not going to hit me anymore, she's not going to check my phone, all of these things. And so just getting the counseling that they need is, I would say, the best. And making sure that they know that they have a safe place to go in case it does get violent. First step is recognition that you're in that violent relationship, and so next step is recognizing what your steps need to be in case that gets violent, or going and seeking counseling.
Now, you mentioned counseling and talking with someone or coming to your counsel. Do you actually have services like that, counselors on call, or ways that to help someone who's coming to seek your aid?
We don't at Youth Services, but the Family Violence Prevention Program, they do have someone on call. They have a 24-hour number that you can call in case you're in a violent situation, you need help, you need a ride to get out of a situation. Any of those types of services, they have those at Family Violence Prevention at Creek Nation.
So you'd make a referral then? Huh?
Yes, we would definitely make a referral.
The March itself, let's turn to that. We have, what's the date on that again?
It's going to start up on July 18th.
That's Monday.
That's Monday. Yeah, that's a good way to start the week. I know it's banner headline, of course, is teen dating violence. Now, is this the only reason you're making an incredible walk?
Well, actually, the Mvskoke Youth Council is an affiliate of the Unity National Network, and what it is the July 21st will be the the start of the Unity National Conference, which is actually in Oklahoma City. So in a way, this is also kind of our way of honoring our Unity affiliates.
What started, what got that pot brewing about this march? What made you want to do this?
Well, I'm sure, as you may be aware of, the longest walk came through, Creek Country in April, and I actually participated in the walk in Mvskoke and also in Alabama. And so just that feeling of walking with your brothers and sisters, it's just an empowering feeling in it. And you're walking together, and it's just an amazing feeling to have that feeling that, someone's with you, and you just walking, not just because you're walking, but you're walking to create a change. You're creating awareness, and it's just a great feeling. And so it kind of came out of the longest walk. It wasn't until about May that I talked to my mom about it. I said, hey, Mom, what do you think about possibly walking to Oklahoma City? And at first she was like, oh, I don't know about that. She told me, it's in the middle of July, it's going to be hot, you're going to have to talk to police. And she was looking at it from a professional viewpoint. And she didn't know, she was kind of a little worried about it. But as I thought and kept thinking about it, I became more passionate. And, I said, we're going to do it. And we're going to be history. We'll be the first Native youth organization to walk from tribal capital to state capital. No other organization has ever done this. So what I like to tell people is Mvskoke Nation Youth Council is creating history.
Could you please tell us maybe how many miles, what little towns y'all going through, and anything like that right now?
Yeah, so like you said earlier, we're going to start July 18th. So next week, Monday, July 18th, at 12 o'clock at the council house just across the street, we're going to have a Start of Walk rally. And so we'll have family violence there. We'll have other departments helping us out. And we're actually going to start from the council house. And we're going to walk along 6th Street and then continue on towards the Roundhouse. We're going to stop at Roundhouse. Will be our first stop, and that's 23 miles. And the Roundhouse is near Okemah. So each day we'll have different mileage. We're going to try to get there in 4 days. Our longest day is the 3rd day, which is approximately 36 miles.
I'm speechless. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Gary.
And that's how many miles total? Gosh, I don't.
A little bit over 100, correct?
Yeah. It's about 110 miles, the route we're going. We're not going on I-40. We want to be able to make it there. So, going on 56 and then 56 to 62. 62 actually turns into 23rd Street once you enter the metro area. And 23rd Street leads right into the east side of the state capitol.
So one of the great things about this, not only are you walking to the state capitol, but you're going through a lot of towns throughout the Mvskoke Nation jurisdiction.
Exactly. So like I said, we're starting at the council house. So that right there has, a historical, feeling with it. And walking through historic downtown Okmulgee. We'll also, on the first day, we'll pass the New Yaka Mission, which is a boarding school for Creek citizens. Another place that we'll also pass is Tallahassee Wagalai Ceremonial Grounds. And, also stop at the Philip Deer Roundhouse, and Philip Deer was a medicine man. So, just trying to incorporate that traditional aspect as well. That Monday night we will play stickball at the Roundhouse, and so I'm just trying to put some history into it and, some awareness into it and kind of all tying it together.
Rachel, with this walk, you have to worry about a lot the people's safety. So with the sun, is there a lot of emergency management? Are they have been help? What about Light Horse or?
So one of the very first meetings that we had once we decided that this was officially going to happen was we pulled in all departments that we thought could and we would need help with, including emergency management and Light Horse. And our walkers will have a Light Horse escort all the way through, and we've spoken with all of the police departments along the way, the city and the county. So we'll have some escorts along the way for that too, and then they'll just be kind of aware that we're coming through. along with each walking group, because we did want it to be open to the youth. This is for teen dating violence, so each walking group will have an adult with them. So we'll make sure that they're not going to be alone out there on the road. And then we have support vehicles that are going to be there in case someone does get too hot. We'll have plenty of water. We'll have, I believe, someone from emergency management with us at all times, so that in case someone does get too hot or they need anything like that, then we'll be able to take care of them.
You know, I know y'all had a sign up for this at, to get this started. How many walkers do y'all have gearing up for this Mvskoke March?
We have about 30 signed up, but when you sign up, you pick the days that you can walk. So some are going to be there for only the first day, some are going to be there for the last day, but we'll have a consistent number of about 10 to 15 walking each day. So,
Let me ask you a question in a larger sense. We've seen many marches and protest groups out on the streets and encountering situations where tragic situations with police and other people who don't agree with what they're going to be saying. So does that weigh in your mind at all, and are you taking appropriate precautions to make sure people understand what you're doing there?
yes, so one of the things that we're going to do is we'll have a walkers meeting. We'll circle up and we'll talk about the day. We're not violent. We don't have any protests we're going to do. Like I said, we're just going to create awareness. I know some people, with all the race riots going on, have some concerns about our safety. And regardless, we're going to pursue to the Capitol. And nonviolent, we just want to create awareness. So one of the things that we're also going to do is carry signs about facts so that people who pass us along the highways can see facts. Because like I said, we want to get that awareness out there. Mm-hmm. So no violence or anything.
Probably be too tired. They just want to probably walk straight to their sleeping bag and go to sleep.
Dang, it's hot out here. You go get some other time. I presume the law enforcement agencies you've contacted are agreeable to what you're doing now.
Mm-hmm. Yes, we've been working with Light Horse, county sheriffs, local police departments. We've all been working with them, and we've really been cooperative with them, and they've been cooperative with us. So it's just good that we're working with the different departments, different police departments, just having that relationship between the youth council.
Oh boy, Rachel, have you got any thoughts about embarking on a journey like this?
It's so funny. We there's been a lot of snags along the way. Jay's been really excited, and so we just kind of took it. And my favorite part about this is it is youth-led and youth-driven. He had the idea. He's made this plan. He's set the mileage. He has made all of the calls. We've just been here for support whenever he needs it, and so it's just amazing to sit here and watch. To be able to just watch them grow and watch him be able to take over his own event and host his own event, and for the youth council to be a part of it. Our youth council just celebrated its 1-year anniversary, and so it's really amazing that these youth have come full circle and been able to put something of this magnitude together in just under a year, and really in under 2 months is the Mvskoke March has been planned. So
wow, that's amazing. Now you better be careful there with the snags along the way there. I mean,
And snakes.
yeah, that's not exactly what you're there for. So, that's old guys, and you still use it. All right, well, if anyone wanted some information about this, or is it too late to join up, how would they get in touch with you?
If you look on Facebook, we're on Facebook, Mvskoke March, Mvskoke March 2016. You can look us up on Facebook. Our website, we do have a website, is also on the Facebook page. If you look on the Mvskoke Nation website, we also have our press release on there. So just want to encourage everyone to come out to our rallies at Okmulgee at the Council House on July 18th. That'll begin at noon. Also have a end of walk rally in the state capitol chambers on July 21st and that'll also start at noon. So I want to encourage everyone to come out to both the rallies.
Okay, and Snaggy go it down. All right, well, we want to thank Jay Fife and Rachel Sourjohn from our nation's Youth Council for coming up. We wish you the best, the most success you can do in raising awareness and making us proud of our young people then.
Very proud of y'all. Thank you both for being here.
Mado.
Thank you for having us.
All right, we're going to take a real short break here, and Darren and I will be back with some community announcements. So stay with us here on Mvskoke Radio here on 1240 The Brew.
Who am I? Am I Indian? Just 'cause I'm a girl from the res, don't make things up about me. What if I move away? Who am I? Some kids try meth just to escape, but then I think about my grandma, my little brother, my beadwork, my poetry, and I think, I like who I am, and I know meth is not for me.
Check out ncai.org, a message from the Partnership for a Drug-Free America and the National Congress of American Indians.
All right, earlier in the last program, Stan made mention of some opportunities for veterans, and we want to make sure that they are aware of this one.
Yes, the Veteran Affairs Health Benefits Enrollment Fair, which is Thursday, July 14th. For more information, contact Ken Davis at 918-732-7745.
Okay, if anyone's got the urge for an Indian taco and it's too hot to cook, well, Friday on the 15th here, there's a fundraiser for Kiana Little Bear. She wants to attend the 8UUSSSA Midwest National Softball Tournament in Kansas City, and those kind of things can run very expensive. Mm-hmm. So they're holding a taco sale, and if you're interested, it's $7 for Indian tacos, and of course all donations are accepted. Right now they will be making deliveries starting on the 15th at 11:30, and I understand they're working out a place, hopefully, as they say, a church will allow them to work from their kitchens. And we'll leave this note here with our folks here at 1240 The Brew in case that changes, and you can go to the church and pick up your tacos. But until then, call Amanda Jones at 918-606-8990 or Karen Bear 918-939-9978. Tacos delivered to your door.
Mvskoke Farmers Market, which is going to be reserve your spot it's already past June 30th, but it's for the July Farmers Market. For more information on that, please contact Terry Anderson at 918-732-7699.
I'm looking for a black diamond watermelon, so hopefully they'll have some there. Mm-hmm. Still, the very popular splash pad at the Claude Cox Omniplex is still closed until further notice so that the Tribal Construction Department can fix a water leak and draining issues. And, of course, they apologize for any inconvenience. We know it was incredibly popular, and we hope they can get that fixed for our little ones.
MCN Community Clinic, they're taking same-day appointments are still available Monday through Friday from 8 to noon or 1 to 5. Contact 918-756-5471.
And, of course, it's getting really into the hot season here in Oklahoma. We want to make sure that you take some tips to stay cool during this heat. And, of course, drink more fluids and no alcohol or large amounts of sugar. Stay indoors if possible. And electric fans may be comfortable, but they will not prevent heat-related illness. So you can take a cold shower or an air-conditioned spot is probably a much better way to cool off. Lightweight, loose-fitting clothing, and never leave anyone in a closed parked vehicle. It's for keep your baby safe or even your pets, so make sure that they're all taken care of. That'll do it for us here on Mvskoke Radio. We appreciate you checking us out today. Mado Mabo Hedgetscut, Gary Fife, Jaho Jifkados.
Darren DeLon, Jaho Jifkados.
And Mado. You've been listening to Mvskoke Radio. Join us again next week for more local, tribal, and community news and updates. Mado.